Welcome to the Dark Zone, an adventure racing podcast.
That it is to me one gigantic adventure, right? So I am insanely lucky to give 361 a full try this year. Just some live things lined up. Sold a business last year. So this is the year to let's see if this model can work to make this my job, my career, etc. So I have that bandwidth to give it a go.
Well, for me, the action is the juice. I'm in.
I need you, brother. Please, Sensei, please.
Courage, Bob. Courage.
That's it. Courage. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you.
Say the word, Chef.
Let it rip.
Welcome to the Dark Zone, an adventure racing podcast. This is your host, Brian Gatens. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for listening to the show. Hard to believe that we are over 5 years old. That's right, folks. July 1st, 2026, we celebrated our 5th anniversary. Born during COVID, there was a Facebook group called Adventure Racing Stories, which evolved into the Dark Zone. We're kind of running it back a bit. We're kind of bringing back some older guests, people we spoke to earlier, catch up with people, hear about how they're evolving as racers and race directors and all of that. And so we are joined today by Shawn Lemaster of 361 Adventures. If you go all the way back to Dark Zone number 16, less than 20, Shawn was an early guest of ours, and we had a great conversation. Then it was December of 2021, the holiday season. Great conversation about Shawn and what they were doing with the races he was putting on, his own racing. And now we've brought him back. He's back on the show. 5 years of evolution, 5 years of growth. And it is great to have Shawn again on the Dark Zone. So Shawn, thanks for joining us. So how you been? What's going on?
I've been good, Brian. Thanks for having me. It's always awesome to be on. Yeah, probably a lot's happened in that time span. And also thanks for dating me.
You're a tough person to interview because you bring so many dimensions to the table, right? You're a racer, you're a race director, you're an adventurer. So I'm gonna roll the carpet out to you. When you want to talk about your efforts and what you do in the big picture of your adventure-based life, where do you like to start the conversation?
I tend to steer more toward the bigger adventures. It may be because we've directed races for so long that I tend to lean toward, what's kind of rocking my world, what could rock other people's world. So yeah, that's kind of my thing. And backstory here, I did my first ultra back in March, so that was a whole new realm. And although I'd covered some big distances, obviously in expedition races, I'd never really tackled something like that. So that was a very eye-opening, very rewarding experience. So that's probably my biggest thing since we last talked, I'd say.
What race did you do and what was the distance?
It was Trail 6 Warburg, which is in Hyden, Kentucky. So I was familiar with the area because they host the War Daddy race, which is, billed as the hardest mountain bike race in Kentucky. So I knew the guys really well. Saw it pop up that they were putting on an ultra, and they had a few distances, but of course I landed on the 100 mile. So that's the one I gravitated to.
Was that the longest distance that they offered?
Yeah, that was.
Of course, so that's why you picked the 100, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Right now, by the way, Dark Zone listeners are nodding their heads at home because, of course, you picked the longest, and the largest.
Yeah, so I did. Signed up for it. I think the day after registration opened, mainly because I'd never done it. It was big. It was unknown. It was a challenge, and I knew the guys. So like all the boxes ticked, and the timing worked out as well, to where I would have the bandwidth to train for it. So signed up for that one. And, you hear things about how it's going to go, about what the training takes. But, the amount of training that it took to get to the start line, just geared up and ready for it was significant. And I want to say it was on par with expedition racing, except it was, obviously hyper focused on just running.
Right.
So, I tell my friends quite often, they're like, gosh, was it hard? Like, was the training hard? What were you doing? And I always say, like, yeah, just if you would have texted me at any given time, there was a 50% chance I was probably running.
Right.
So
or
like
you were laying on the couch. Either you're training or you're recovering. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So like a rando Thursday, I would open up my training plan and be like, run a marathon. So I'd be like, well, shit, that seems like a lot. So I think I ended up doing 6, 7, 8 marathons in preparation for the 100 mile, which was just a lot of miles. And yeah, it was super interesting, both the training load, both the unknown, the nervousness of it, of, having done the expedition races, thinking in the back of my mind, I've got it. Like my body can do this thing. My mind can do this thing. But then again, it's like, well, shoot, dude, you've never ran 100 miles at once. Like that's unknown. That's really unknown.
Was the marathon the longest single distance that you ran in training in advance of it? Or did you ever go over a marathon distance in a single training session?
Yeah, my longest was 38, which even surprises people. And they're like, really, that's all? But they, most people new to it, they just don't, they don't get the click of, if you go much over that, you're just damaging, it's diminishing recurrence. So you're beating your body up for no gains really. So 38 was my longest.
What was your weirdest, kookiest, strangest training session you ever put together? That really struck you? Like when you saw it, you were kind of like, really, I have to do this. What jumped out at you?
I don't know if one stands out in particular. Like there was some, oh no, I take that back. So I was driving back and I was going to pass Red River Gorge, which is, phenomenal area, Eastern Kentucky. It's where we put on the FIG. And it wasn't too aggressive. It was like 13 to 15 miles. But the harsh part is it was like 9 degrees. And I don't think I'm exactly like you, Brian, and I'm not as regimented. I'm not as, well, if I miss this, oh no, I've done something terrible. It's just like, I'm going to hit 80% of this. But anyway, I'm driving by and I'm like, let's do this. Like, I'm going to knock out the 13. We'll get it done. I can feel good about the day. And I also had my dog with me, Mika. And so like, you ready for this, Meeks? Let's knock this out. So all was going good until we like dropped down to the stream crossings and such. And, we were warm. It was fine. But of course, Mika was willy-nilly just reckless abandon crossing the streams.
Right.
And then sure enough, give it 2-3 minutes, huge ice balls on her feet, like problematically so. And I'd left her boots at home because I hadn't planned on running 13 miles in 9 degree weather. Right. And so then it became a situation like, oh my gosh, dog's hurt. This is a terrible idea.
So the dog's like, hey, wait a minute, Shawn. I didn't sign up for the 100. The dog is like, I'm out here. Like I'm a hostage. She had been taken hostage. So these huge ice blocks on her paws, like she was hurt, and I could tell she was in a pickle. 62 pounds. So carrying her out was not the best option. So I'm trying to break these ice balls off her paws between her paw pads. And, I can get half of it off, and then some of it's just so stuck in there. And like dog owners will get this, like whatever it takes, let's fix this problem. Right.
So at one stage, I don't know, but I should tell this part, but at one stage,
I think I know where you're going, by the way. Go ahead. I think I know it's going to end up.
I had her full paw in my mouth, biting off the ice chunks and trying to melt them. I was like, well, shoot, this is where we're at in life. Like bad decisions have been made.
You're like, who owns who here?
So that was probably the craziest one. Good stories, like no toes were lost. We got her back to the truck. Right. We actually got in her 13 because about the halfway point is when we had to turn around. But lesson learned, if I want to do that again, definitely have the dog boots and make better decisions. So,
she went home when she slept for 2 days. So you've all the training. What was the race terrain-wise? Mountain, trail, gravel, road?
Yeah, so it was pretty much one big 100-mile loop. There was a bit of a lollipop in it, so maybe the first, 10 to 15 were repeated. Otherwise, it was this massive loop, and it's called the Redbird Crest Trail. So lots and lots and lots of it were single track and then some double track. a little bit of pavement, but not much, and then some gravel. So mixed surface, but primarily you're running dirt. And yeah, they do, like, hands down, they put on an absolutely fantastic race. I knew that from War Daddy. This was their first go at hosting ultra like this major. Insanely hilly. Like, I want to say it was 18,000 feet a gain.
God.
Yeah, it was significant. And I think that's one of those numbers you read and you're like, yeah, that's hilly. But then when you're running, you're like, oh boy, yeah, it's hilly. Yeah. So it was definitely challenging. DNF rate was absurd, and I think it was because the hills, it just like absolutely crushed people. So I think the DNF rate was something like 48%.
Okay.
So it tore people up. And the weather was interesting from, I want to say cold, but it wasn't cold, but it was enough to like tax the body, and then it would kind of shoot up to, for March, hot. So it was that swing of 20, 30 degrees that I think also got some people. And yeah, like the event went fantastic. Like, I don't want to be ostracized for saying this. And it's for it's for several different reasons, but I would say organized, it was probably the most, gosh, this will sound too big, but it was probably the most life-changing event that I've done. And it filled a lot of cards for me. And I think to put it into words, probably why I'm saying that is my people were there, right? So for hardcore adventure racers not familiar with ultras, you get pacers, right? So I could pick up 4 pacers. And of course they were my ARs, right? It's Matt O'Brien, Sarah Dahlman, who's absolute legend.
He's great. Holy cow.
Eric Olson, and then Steve Hamble. Okay. So I had my pacers. I picked up, I think, Eric at mile 48 or so. So I got to see him like back half of the race. And then you also get a crew, right? So my crew was my brother Dallas, also, 361 adventure partner, and his wife Mary. So having that group of people was just mind blowing.
Yeah. So at a minimum, there were 6 people part of Team Shawn, right? There were between the pacers and the crew. And that doesn't even count the tertiary volunteers, people who really don't know you. So this whole community springs up around this individual effort.
Yeah. And that's nuts. I mean, coming from AR where, you are, besides your teammates, like it's just you guys, right? It's self-supported. You'll see people, of course, at TAs and such, but to have friends that, one, hardcore, that, especially Steve, like Steve was a last minute replacement. I was like, hey, Steve, you want to run, which was pretty much a marathon for him. It was 24 miles. You want to run a mountain marathon? And I gave him the night leg too. And it was the hardest leg. I was like, hey, Steve, like, you in? He was like, yeah. And then like a few text messages later, it was like, oh, I guess I better start running. Yeah. Because it was winter.
It's easy to say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he processed like, oh, shoot, this is like a legit marathon in the middle of the night.
He's like staring at his phone. He's like, did I just say yes to that?
Yeah. Here's another, just to build like why this was so important to me. Not knowing any of the backstory, Steve was in Florida taking care. This is like the week of the race, right? Mm-hmm. Steve's in Florida taking care of some family stuff. I'm coordinating with like my brother, who's my crew chief. He's handling everything. And nobody's telling me this, that like Steve's having a situation in Florida, taking care of some life business. Nobody tells me any of this. And like coordination, he had to like fly to Lexington, get picked up. There was like 8 or 9 components of logistics. I wasn't privy to any of it. So like first thing right before the race, I find out all this. I'm like, Steve, dude, like not necessary, man. Like, you don't have to try that hard to make this happen. And he was like, 1, quit being stupid. Like I'm here for it. And 2, expect me there on race morning, like ready to rock it. I was like, oh man, like that's fantastic.
Well, they put you in the cocoon of the pre-racer, right? They knew that you had this huge effort coming on. They knew. And so they like left you alone. Like they shut you out of those things. They didn't want to let you just focus on what you had to do. You had to get ready for the race. Clearly the race met your expectations. You were pleased with everything, how it all went down. What was your, I mean, it's a 100-mile race. We could talk for 9 hours about it, right? But in a broad swing, Did it work out the way you wanted it to work out?
Oh, it worked out. Yeah. Better than, body held up really well. Had an IT band issue, hit around 52 on a road section.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Sucker just locked up pretty hard. And Steve hopped in, just, elbowed it, worked it out to where I could get to the next, crew. And then, and even when I turned the first corner to see my crew, they were expecting like a hobbled Shawn, like battered, bruised, because they had seen a lot of the racers come in. But at that point, like I was really good, Brian. Like I felt really fantastic. So I turned the corner, I see all my people, and it's just like this overwhelm of like emotion and like, oh my gosh, these people are here for me to help me get through.
Right. They're going to carry me along. Yeah.
Yep. They're going to, and they did. Like one stage, like Sarah's putting my socks on, working my IT band, they KT tape. Dallas and Mary were like feeding me dumplings, like all this stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just the best. So yeah, I felt really held, really seen, really supported, all the things. I think that's why I can say that, one, I obviously finished, which was a big deal, because it was scary, right? Taking that on is a scary thing.
And then, there's this interesting, paradox of it's an individual effort. 6 people, you put all the time and all the work into getting ready for it. 6 people have put their lives on hold to carry you through. So now all of a sudden there's an obligation to you and to them and to the race. And then the public pressure of the fact that you talk about doing this out loud, and who really wants to not finish a race, right? Because then you have to explain 9 million times what happened, right? And so there's that huge psychological pressure that kicks in mile 60, mile 70, mile 80. So I can relate to that.
Especially for me. I mean, not for anything other than just nature. I'm not a DNFer. I'm not a quitter. I lean into that. I always say tenacity is my superpower. But then when it's put to the test, it's like, oh shoot, man, you better show up. You better practice while you're preaching.
Right.
And I was thankful, grateful that I pulled it off because it was big. And then I think the other takeaway, actually 2 takeaways on this one, Brian, and then we'll move on from Ultraland because it is adventure racing podcast, right?
Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is.
So it stuck with me so much so like a week after, or whenever it was, a couple weeks after I was watching Cocodona 250 live and I was like, oh, this is interesting. You know where this is going, right? So I'm like, gosh, is that a thing? Is that too far? Am I capable of doing that? And I don't know.
The Cocodona 250, for those listeners out there, it's a huge race. It's out west. One thing that Cocodona does very well is that they really nailed the media. They do a great job bringing the people, or people will watch the live stream for 3 days straight to get a sense of that. But yeah, so the Cocodona kind of chirping at you a little bit?
We did. So sure enough, I put my name in the hat for the lottery.
Which is the least bit unsurprising, by the way. That's like, the sky is blue and you put in for Cocodona. Like those 2 things.
Yeah. But part of it was, let's see, like if it hits, then I can see. Then I realized like my odds were actually pretty good.
Right.
I want to say like 18, 20%. Anyway, I did not get a lottery draw, but I did get a wait-and draw. From my understanding, it could actually hit.
So you better keep trading.
Yeah. And that's what the email said. It was something really funny, like pretty much just stay trained up.
Yeah. Don't stop.
250 miles. Like, okay. That sounds good. Let's do that. So ultra stuck, obviously, if I'm going for that. And then the other huge thing that I saw, and I've seen this in a few different ways. So I started with triathlon, right? Never really, and this is not disparaging on any group. I just never felt like those were my people. It's just like they were a bit structured and they were just different than I. So I did that. Sold the flyer for adventure racing through Topo Adventure Sports. Brian Crafton did a little clinic. I was like, oh, this seems really cool. This seems different. And then, no spoiler alert here. Like I fell in love with adventure race.
Right.
Did the thing. I was like, yeah, this feels like my people. These are people that are like me. They get it. They're doing the same thing, same vibe. Then I landed on bike tech and I was like, huh. Here's another group of very similar people that I can jive with. Same mentality, all this stuff. And then, kind of dabbled in some other things, other sports, mountain bike races. And then it's like, okay, this ultra thing who are these? Are they like me? And it's like, you don't know. I mean, you can watch YouTube videos and all the stuff, but until you show up and you get the vibe, you get what they're about, how they act, just all the stuff. And sure enough, I did a few training runs that were hosted by TrailSick, show up on race day. And throughout the, whatever it took, 30 plus hours, I was like, absolutely. These are another pack of people. I think a lot of times, we get into sport, we're looking at different sports. But I think more so from what I found, we're looking for people. So
it's a search for community. Our paths are very parallel, right? I triathlon, bike racing, mountain bike racing. If it was human power for the most part, I did it, right? And adventure racing, I landed on adventure racing, 12, 13 years ago now, and I'm still kicking around. And I do think that adventure racers, bike packers, and the ultra community sit at the same table at Thanksgiving. Like that group kind of coalesced together. And not that it spatters the triathletes or the bike racers or the downhill mountain bike guys. So I agree with you. And I think that what you're talking about is that as human beings, our superpower is the ability to live in community. We're social beings. It's built into our DNA. And sometimes, like you pointed out, in a sport, you find that community, which you stumbled across in adventure racing, you stumbled across in bike packing, you stumbled across in the ultra running community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is. It's the people, not the sport, probably. And, it is the niche weirdo sports that congregate, skew the odds in your favor to find the people. I think, so much overlap in personalities and what makes us happy. I wouldn't say I'm an ultra runner, but I dabbled in it.
Right, you've run
ultras. It was a success.
You're ultra curious. One of my favorite authors, and he's a great podcast host and a great artist, is Brendan Leonard of semirad.com.
Oh yeah. I love him.
He's great. Right. And he always talks about how that, he uses the phrase weirdest. He says that we are always the weirdest people in our families. Like when you go to a family function, it's like, oh, so-and-so played golf and that's great. This guy, ran 100 miles. This guy raced, this woman did this person did that. And so I think that you make a valid point where you find the idea of community. Clearly the 100 miler landed on you with the sun in a really good way. You did the training, you did the event, you finished it, you're happy, you had your community around you. So after coming through that experience, when you think about race directing, you think about putting on the FIG. We definitely want to hear about the FIG, the other races that you do, the events that you do. How did that individual experience, how do you anticipate it impacting the other dimensions of your adventure-based life, both professionally and personally?
Oh, that's great. So a few tie-ins here. So one of the races we put on, it's called Frigid, and we brought it back this year. But anyway, for Frigid, so this is the weirdest conversation tie-in. Weather was it was one of those weeks where it was literally a sheet of ice at Carter Cave State Park, Eastern Kentucky. We had 110 registered, and I thought for sure people would be emailing, blowing things up, oh my gosh, is this still going on? I'm out, da. Nobody, I kid you not, nobody blew up the email. It was just expected that, we're going to show up, we're going to do this thing.
Especially if the name of the race is the Frigid, right?
Yeah.
You can't, you didn't tell me it was going to be cold. Dude, it was the name of the race.
Yeah. So race weekend, sheet of ice, a little more snow. And I tell them in the pre-race thing, wear your micro spikes, X, Y. And I'm like, gosh, are people actually going to show up for this thing? Yeah, they did. I think 3 people did not show up. Otherwise, so we're in this conference room with 100 and whatever people. And they're legitimately stoked to do this thing. And it was cold, it was 11 degrees or so with ice everywhere. And and I get it. Search and rescue tried to I won't say shut it down, but they had concerns, right?
Right. And you're time out, these are adventure racers.
Right.
We're fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I told them. I was like, they're good.
We're good.
We got it.
That was when we started nationals in a hurricane. Mm-hmm. And they were the people at Snowshoe were kind of well, what do you do with the race? You going to postpone it because of the hurricane? We're no, we'll be okay. We're we're prepared for this. We know how to handle this. So for the frigid, 11 degrees, Eastern Kentucky, what was the race format? How disciplines? How long was it? Like how adventure did it get for everybody out there?
Yeah. So this one was race one of a new series we were doing, a 4-season series. So, winter, spring, summer, fall. So 5 hours, foot only. So that was the format. Kind of Rogaine-ish, adventure track. A lot of new racers though, like people that had never raced with us, but also had never done the sport.
It's a very available distance. 5 hours is very available.
Yeah. Yeah. And, marketing it, just putting just running the socials on it. Kids race for free navigation clinic beforehand. Commenting like, yeah, hike it. Like if you can hike for 5 hours, you got this.
Right.
So we had a lot of new racers. Youngest racer, something nuts, like 4 years old, got carried a lot, but also it was 11 degrees. So search and rescue trying to shut it down. We're like, we're good. We got this. Don't sweat it. But like as a race director during that pre-race, it's like, oh man, gosh, I hope we got it. I hope nobody slides off of a cliff, egg on the face, somebody getting helivacked out.
Yeah. You're like, we're good. We're not good. Right? You don't want to be that guy.
Crossed my back. So, anxiety level's pretty high for that one. But one thing that I really took away, and, no surprise here, a lot of stuff going on externally, peripherally in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we're here for this finite amount of time, super privileged that we get to do this thing. Yeah. And like, we all recognize it, right? We're all showing up. We're all doing this thing, free will. And then that was one of the key moments. And this was the first race of the year to where 361 has made a full throttle shift to making this into a thing, right? So I know a lot of your listeners won't know 361 history. We hit it pretty hard when we first started putting on 6, 7, 8 races a year. It kind of reached an arc. We backed off due to just life stuff. So this is the first year we've come back just gunning for it. So this frigid was the first race of this. Let's see what happens here. So to have that many people show up under those conditions, nobody called 911. Actually, nobody called me. Few people got pretty hurt, but they're adventure racers. So they were like, let's grab a few more checkpoints and lit back.
Yeah, you got to get hurt.
Concussed or not. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, right. So to just look out on that group of racers, like more so than anything, more so than the ultra, more so than any other past race I've ever put on, I was like, yes, 100%, these are my people. And to embrace that, right. To be like, yes, I found it. I found it.
And to your point too, like, is there, going to a lot of races, being involved in a lot of races, being involved in the racing, it's great to see the stalwarts, the veterans come out and do the race, right? People, who are rock solid, but to see a new person make the leap into an adventure track, into an adventure race, it's a great thing to see, right? Because to your point, and we hear it all the time, the community has been very good to you, and that you want to be able to give it on to other people as well. And that's what happened with a race like the frigid, early season race, 5 hours, pretty cold. There are people that's the gateway to bigger and longer and better races.
Yeah, for sure. And that's how most of us got started. You start with whether it's a shorter adventure race or, some people will jump into the long 12, 24-hour stuff. We're seeing those faces again and again. It is a series, so there's series points. But we've seen people from frigid, like they're doing the full series now. They're, poking around and, maybe I want to do the 12-hour fig, or maybe I want to do, the unbridled women's race. Mm-hmm. So they're curious. And that's what got them started. And then I think one other tie-in, and I think I often forget this as a race director, but I see it in the races that I do. Is it like, I know it in myself that this changes a lot of people's life trajectory, right? Mm-hmm. It has 100% changed mine. Like, well, it's changed yours. Look at you. You are doing a podcast about adventure racing because you're passionate about adventure racing, and it changed your life.
It's a fascinating sport. Still to this day, fascinating when I see it unfold.
Yeah. And it ticks so many boxes, rocks your world in so many different ways. So I've had a few people over the years of doing this to email or text and be like, I did this race back in whatever, 2017. And like, here's how it impacted me. Thank you. And I see that in the races that I do, like the trail sit guys, like they're just not, as race directors, often you're not aware of how impactful these things can be. And whether it's 5 hours, whether it's 5 days, it's very impactful to people. And I could email those trail sit guys and be like, hey dudes, guess what? You changed my life. Thank you. So it's nice seeing new people come on board, seeing them smile, seeing them be like, oh, when's the next one? And then we're in it long enough to then track their trajectory. Like, oh, what are you doing now? It's like, well, shoot, I just did endless, or I just did, you know,
and
whatever.
There's people I've known who did their first race, 6, 12, 24-hour race. Next thing you know, to your point, they're doing endless, right? They're looking at the worlds. I mean, it's amazing how people do that. What keeps me interested in bringing it back is the idea is, I think a lot about culture about the world, but I don't think a ton about it this way. But we live in a world that is always pushing us towards less and towards safety. I'm not saying you need to go beyond safe, but the unfortunate side effect of that dynamic is that sometimes you never see how much potential you have, what you can do under stress, what you can do under a challenge. Because we carved that out of our lives a lot. We reduced that friction. And in adventure racing or in bikepacking races or bikepacking trips or in ultra running, we're intentionally injecting ourselves into situations that force us out of the comfort that society forces us into.
Yeah, and I can totally get on board with that. Not only the growth you see, but also it's almost interjecting unsafe behavior in a very safe environment. So your mind doesn't know it, right? You're under some serious stress, just serious hardships and just problem solving, all the stuff for the most part, a safety net, right?
Well, right. There's risk, right? Safe and unsafe are tough terms to use, right? Because they're kind of binary. But it's the idea that we intentionally put ourselves into risky situations for the purpose of personal fulfillment, right? That trade-off is worth it to us. You know, not everyone sees it up.
Yeah, no, I'm on board. I'll take that risk 9 out of 10 times.
Your work with the Frigid and the expansions of the series. Tell us about the FIG. The FIG has gone to a 24-hour format and refresh my memory. It had not been 24 hours. It was 12. How was that race evolved?
So FIG this year, it's in its 24th year. It has always been 12 hours. A little context on the FIG, longest running adventure race in Kentucky, Red River Gorge area, like we talked about before. So kind of eastern, central, or more eastern Kentucky. Red River Gorge is a sport climbing destination in the U.S. So really popular in that regards, scenic all. So that race, we took it over. We were just chatting about this, but 2015, I think was their first year taking it over. So we've got a long standing history with it. So when the 24th version hit, I was like, well, that's convenient. How about we run a 24-hour race to, time with the 24th running? So I haven't announced it publicly yet. Maybe it'll get released with this podcast, but I actually got the call from the Forest Service last week that it is a green light. So 24 hours is happening along with the 12 hours. A lot of our racers they're 12-hour racers, which is cool. So we're not going to cut that out. It'll be a 24-hour. It's always the first week in November. And so it being a 24-hour, it has opened up some really cool options for us. Stuff that people have never paddled in the race, we've partnered with. So more than likely expect some very nice pack rafting legs. And then we're also throwing some ropes at it as well, which, you get that logistics and all the stuff are there, but it's also Red River Gorge, sport climbing destination in the world, huge rock cliffs. It is known for ropes. So this year we're also throwing ropes into it as well. So trying to make it feel very much like a full-on legit yard. Not that the 12-hour isn't, but you just can't pack as much as you want to into a 12-hour versus.
So 24 hours gives you a lot more runway to add more distance, more disciplines, more opportunity.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about what we can throw at it this year with 12 additional hours.
Right.
And racers are excited about it too. Like people, you got to do the drive map, as all of us do. It's like, well, it's a 12-hour race. can I justify driving 14 hours to do a 12-hour race? A lot of them were like, no, that doesn't equal. And we all have our threshold. But several racers have reached out to me. They're like, Shawn, if that 24-hour hits, and this is like, the outliers, the Eastern Virginias, the Pennsylvania. It's like,
right.
If there's a 24-hour, count me in. And it's, I want to think that most adventure racers, they have at least heard of the FIG.
It's a well-known race. It's a popular race. The fact that the FIG is bumping up to 24, to your point, there's a whole cadre of people that have their ears are going to perk up because they're willing to make that trip.
Yeah, for sure. And like they've emailed me, they've contacted. There's like, hey, how about that 24? Hey.
Poking at you.
So yeah, they're poking. And that's awesome. It's going to be people that have heard of it, that have never raced it, that will now make the drive to make their math work out. So they're going to see a new area. And like objective for this one is to rock their world, right? We want to show them, one, the gorge. We also want to show them what we do as a race company.
Right.
So yeah, that's the objective. Rock a bunch of people's world, throw in ropes, pack rafts.
How do you think having it in November impacts it? November's technically is it the first race of the new season? Is it the last race of the current season? Like, how does that November date drop? Do you think from like a racer perspective, will people be done with racing summer, spring, or looking for one more event for the end of the year? Why do you think that's going to impact interest?
Yeah, I think it's more close of the season type thing. USARA, it is the more so the kickoff of the season. Right. But for our racers, like, it's a 120 plus participant race, which is big for us.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the same faces, but we're seeing some new faces as well pop up. So I expect it to be kind of a season closer, especially for us, but also for our core demographic there, like Kentucky region, Ohio, et cetera.
It's also a great way to finish off the season. If it's the end of someone's season by finishing with a 24, right? So say you race the frigid, right? You did the 5-hour frigid, you're doing a 12-hour race during the summer. You could argue those racers are building towards a big end of the year event to cap off a really good race season.
Yeah, it is a good closer. Like you've had, you will probably not be as trained up early season. So it's like, it's an actual culmination to probably a lot of people's race season.
Good.
And then on air calendar as well, we have a 12-hour in August that'll help prep people for it.
Gotcha.
And then we have the LBL Challenge in March as well, that I'm also 12, 24 out.
I like the idea of finishing up with a big race at the end of the year. I think that's a really good way of putting it together. Like, like Rootstock has the Stockville, which is the 2-day event, right? I think that's November 14, 15. That's a really nice way to wrap up the end of your season by going so big with that.
Yeah. And that is how I'm wrapping up my season, is that race.
At Stockville?
So yeah. That made the math for me. And I've heard like great things about it. And it's cool. It's just a cool idea. So I'm like, yeah. So me and my buddy Matt, we're signed up for that already.
One of my favorite races. I hope to be there this year. I'll be there in some capacity. Hopefully I'll be there as a racer. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. I've never raced it. Just what a cool concept. And like, they put on great races as you. So
yeah, it's interesting the idea of getting there. You do 12 hours of racing, and they're never easy races. And then you have to set your gear up, eat something, sleep, get up, and restart the next day. Right? That's the big challenge, is that the day 2 start. But once you get moving, you feel great. It's the first 30, 45 minutes out of camp that you feel real creaky.
Yeah. We did our first stage race, where I did my first stage race with Mark Cerberus earlier this year. So I got my first taste of.
How'd you like that? How'd you like the stage racing format? Because that feels really, because they just had Raid the Rockies, right? Natalie Long did a great job, Adventure Immersion Lab. Mark Latangi does the Cerberus, which is 3 days of racing. So is Raid the Rockies. How did you find the race, sleep, race? How did that kind of fit into your experience?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it for the reset, the camaraderie, not as intense, not as logistically heavy. It was like expedition racing, but not.
Right.
I still loved it. Yeah, I still love the long unsupported stuff, but I don't know. It was a nice breath and doing something big without all the taxes of true expedition racing. So I was a big fan.
Yeah. Like I'm fresh off the course of Endless Mountain. We did the 5-day race, 119 hours of racing, 9 hours of sleep. And for context, today is Wednesday, July 8th. We finished racing Saturday, June 27th, and I'm still tired. right? And so, I mean, I'm sure that's age and I'm sure that's a lot of things, but the idea of doing a big stage and then having a bed to sleep in is really attractive, right?
Yeah, that's such a big race. Fun thing there, a lot of my friends did endless and they're signed up for, we're putting on the third race of the 4-season series this Saturday. They're doing that. So
God
I'm
bless
like,
them.
gosh, guys, God bless. I was like, that's hardcore. Like, I don't think I would do that. Yeah.
My
you
garage
go
is still
for
a
it.
pile of gear. It's all clean. Don't get me wrong. I washed everything. But if you go in my garage, it looks like someone ransacked my garage. I need to spend some time getting stuff put back together. But folk can do that. They can bounce right back. There are folks, God love them, who raced endless or going to the main summer adventure race this weekend. They got it in their legs. Yeah. So go get them, guys. If that's beside your capacity, feel free. I'll be the guy on the couch if you need me.
Yeah.
So it feels as if as you look at the different the Venn diagram, the spinning plates, however you want to metaphor you want to use, that you're able to sort of piece all these things together, right? You could train for the 100 with your community, with your tribe that took care of you. You could expand to the 4-season series. You could bring this thing on. It sounds like you've done a pretty nice job wrapping your who you are as a person with who you are as a race director, with who you are as a racer. What has that done for you overall in terms of how you see life and you see the world?
Yeah, that's a deep one. They are so intertwined at this point that it is to me one gigantic adventure, right? So I am insanely lucky to give 361 a full try this year. Just some live things lined up, sold a business last year. So this is the year to let's see if this model can work to make this to make this my job, my career, etc. So I have that bandwidth to give it a go. One, it's been a lot of work, not surprisingly, but surprising. And a lot of it's just infrastructure building and all the new things, getting things in place to scale. So 2026, counting we have kind of community builder after hours thing. It's just get-togethers, counting those 11 events on the calendar for this year. That's a lot. I'm fine. But we're also finding which ones stick, right? Which ones are the meat that are going to, be yearly things. And we're dabbling. We're throwing things out there to see what hits. Some of them we know are hitters, right? Fig's always going to be a hitter. 4 seasons seems to be a hitter. And so to go back to your question, what does it look like? I was talking to a friend earlier. They were talking about putting in for fitness. And jokingly, I was like, oh, yeah, I'll hit a 361, but I'm pretty sure we have a limited fitness league. Because it's there is so much that goes into the physicality of planning a race. Like yesterday, I set the one for this weekend. So just my daily is, okay, I get up at 7 and I've been out on course for whatever it was, 8 or 9 hours. That is my job. Is it the best job in the world? Yeah, probably, if I can make it work. And everything holds out. And so my, what they say, hobby, make it into your business, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
That's basically what I'm trying to do. So it's all one big blur now, from doing the big races to promoting my own, to setting, the race courses, to dabbling in ultras. It's all just one big blur of adventure, which is fantastic.
Sure.
Super privileged to get to do it. So
yeah, and I agree with you, right? I never discount the absolute privilege, right? To have these conversations, to do these races, to have the personal health, to have the capital, to have the time, right? I never look askance at what this has a chance for us to do. So we're blessed to be part of the community. And you touched on this a little bit here too. And I think this is an interesting thing I see a lot of race directors is that there are some things that are just set. Like the fig is the fig is the fig. But along the way, you're going to consider different things that you could experiment with, formats, options, offerings, things like that. And this question, I may be getting ahead of this question because you're still building as you move through it. Are there things that you're experimenting with this year that you're not quite sure if they're going to land with people, and you may have to, and which by the way is not a failure, it's an experiment. Are there things that you're considering that you might want to reconsider down the road?
Oh, absolutely. So this is funny. We actually put on a race called An Experiment. Yeah. And it was kind of a hybrid between a trail run and some bonus checkpoints. That one, I don't know. I don't know if it was the timing. Registration was low on that one. So it's an unknown, right? Let me put a pin in it, circle around it for next year and make a decision. Two other ones we have that I think are worth mentioning. One is a all-night venture race after dark. Got Mark Latanzi coming in to teach a night navigation program beforehand. Not sure. I don't know on that one. I don't know if people will gravitate to it to learn night navigation. If it's too niche and people really don't want to race at night, I just don't know.
Right.
Is it worth trying? Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see who shows up. Yeah. So let's see on that one. The other big one, I didn't know how it would take. I know now because it had the highest performing social media post of any post I've ever made, was for the Red River Gorge Mountain Bike 100. So this is a 100-mile or a 100K mountain bike race in the same general area as the FIG. This was one that I raced in 2017, as a participant.
Right.
I was out riding with Karen Clark, Christy Deep in the gorge, and one of them was wearing the old school shirt, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. That's throwback." And I think it was Karen was like, "Hey, you should revive that." And I just kind of was like, "Oh, yeah, I should." And then I thought about it. I was like, "Yeah, Karen, you're right. We should revive that." So anyway, got on board with that. Everybody in the community was just like, yes, let's do this. So huge support backing me on this one. And yeah, put a few teasers out, put the main social media post out, and it absolutely blew up. So that one, I think, if trajectory is correct, will be one year after year that we'll go back to.
When is that race being held?
That one is September 19th.
So it's coming up.
Yep, coming up. And that was tight runway to try to promote it and kick it off. But again, it was like riding with some friends in Red River Gorge. It went from ideal to registration open pretty quickly.
Well, I'll give you a little market feedback anecdote. You appreciate this. We all have a million text threads, groups with people we know where things are always flying around, right? Always. And that post that you're talking about was sent to me by somebody. Was like, this looks really, it's funny you bring that up because I'm going to be talking to Shawn. And so that is a 100-mile mountain bike race. Basically, the same area as the FIG. Is it a it's a course. You could talk about the course, right? It's not secret. I mean, or are you still building it? Or is it one big loop? Is it loops? Is it super technical? How would you describe it?
Yeah. So good question. It's a loop with a little lollipop on one side of it. So primarily a loop, all the surfaces from, I don't want to build in this hike a bike, but there's some stuff you just won't ride.
Right.
That's nominal in the whole scheme of the 100 miles. And then there's, fast road. There's really cool gravel. There's the gnarly ATV double track. So it really is, and if people check it out on our website, it's written up pretty well to embrace it as an adventure. I wanted to, and you'll get this, Brian, I wanted to promote it and bill it as a really well-supported, short bike pack, because it is that, right? It's you're coming at it with your own support, with that mentality of it's on me, I'm going to get through it. Right. It's going to be hard. But it's also sucking in a lot of traditional mountain bike racers,
right?
Which, they're hardcore. Yeah, absolutely. But it's a different mindset between bike packers and adventure races versus mountain bike only people.
Right.
There's good write-ups on it on the race page there, but think 5 to 6 aid stations, shuttle support if you quit, that type of stuff. So it'll be a nice medium between crazy time adventure racers or bike packers versus strictly, running a mountain bike racers.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a really weird event. It's interesting. You mentioned the quick appeal of that. I came into mountain bike racing, a lot of it. I remember when the 24-hour mountain bike racing was very popular. 24 Hours of Alamucci, where Dan Brandon, a guest on the show, was one of the race directors out there. And what's wild about that was that the 24-hour racing was wildly popular until it wasn't. Like, after a few years, it just kind of just cratered, where it's like Alamucci sold out like 3-4 years in a row. And then I'm guessing these years, so I apologize if it was longer or shorter. And then one day, people just had their fill of it. They moved on to something else, right? Which is a fascinating thing to see how the sport evolves and how it grows over time. Sometimes things hit and they're eternal. Sometimes things hit. It's a flash in the event. People enjoy it for a few years, and they move on to something else.
Yeah, for sure. Like, see gravel bike racing. Absolute explosion of like those events. And I mean, they're still going strong, but yeah, I'm with you. Who knows what's going to hit, especially with our calendar, but we're willing to try and to see what does hit and then double down on them next year.
The gravel bike racing thing is funny, because there's a race in Massachusetts called D2R2, Deerfield to Randonneur. I forget what it was. And this was gravel before gravel. It was a 100-mile ride. And you kind of just put bigger tires on your road bike. Like there was no gravel bike, right? You found the biggest possible tires you could put on, and you had at it. The Tour of the Battenkill, right? Battenkill Roubaix, a gravel before there was a gravel race. So it's interesting to see how that has exploded. And you mentioned the gravel. So I want to, as we're getting near the end of our hour, I do want to spend a bit of time, and I appreciate all that you've given us about the bike pack. Because I know that you've had some big bike packing experiences. I know that you've been involved in a lot of that. Give us a few minutes on your bike packing resume.
Oh gosh. So one, much like Ultra, let me say, highly recommend bike packing. If you're an adventure racer or you're thinking about it, it's a fantastic way to see lots and lots of country in a very short amount of time, comparatively to like expedition racing or particularly through hiking or that kind of thing. Kind of the notable ones, I've done the Colorado Trail.
And that's the Denver to Durango.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one, gosh,
you're about 14,000 feet for a lot of that race.
It is brutal. And that's one, gosh, I don't want to deter people from I won't do it. Well, funny story. I said I will never do that again. It is the most physical thing I've ever done.
That's brutal. A very common ride bike. It's very, very hard.
So hard at elevation, pushing your bike, endless mile. So I was like, I'll never do that again. Nope, never going to do it again. Sarah Dahlman reached out a couple of years ago, I think it was. She was like, Shawn, I want to like tackle the section I didn't get to do. You in? I was like, gosh, darn it, Sarah.
Here, fishy,
so
fishy.
Anyway, I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. So once again, out there, like back half of that, I was like, gosh, never going to do this again. But I know if like one of my close friends like texted me and they were like, hey, dude, like you want to do this with me?
Yeah.
I'd probably be like, oh,
yeah, I just couldn't say no. Yeah, I mean, it was
I just couldn't say no.
Okay, yes, like I can't say no to it. If anybody wants me, I'm in. Yeah,
that was brutal. Done the Stagecoach 400, which they put out a really cool YouTube series.
That's a great YouTube series. I want to do that now as a result of that. They did a great job with that. And I'm actually going to put, if I remember, hopefully, I'll put the link to that series in the show notes because they did a great job with that.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It makes you want to bike that. It makes you want to do Stagecoach 400.
Yeah, I want to go do that.
Yeah.
Like having seen that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I did that one with Jess Evans. That one, highlight there is I had the strongest hallucinations I've ever had.
Oh, okay.
Because we were trying to do the 4-day thing. And then probably the biggest one, and this was also the most fulfilling adventure I've ever had, was the Tour Divide route. So I did that.
Antelope Wells.
Yep. Did that a couple years.
Going on right now as we speak.
Yeah, it is. And they absolutely blew away the FKTs.
Yeah, killed it.
Absolutely shattered.
I was listening to a podcast the other day. The .com's podcast was talking about it. Every single category FKT was beat.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Sometimes
know that.
by a day.
Yeah, it's wild. Not to get on a tangent on this, but it's very applicable to adventure racing and expedition racing.
Yeah.
And I started seeing the shift about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, was the whole sleep strategy.
Yeah.
To where more is more.
Yeah.
Whereas the old mentality was like, I'm not sleeping.
Yeah.
I'm running on fumes. Nope. It's been a 180 on that mentality.
Yeah.
So yeah, an interesting thing that the probably
there's a funny little dynamic in that community going on right now where Victor Bassoni, I don't know if I say his name properly, he wanted some FKT. You know, it's all communities, they're very peculiar. We all have our quirks. He's getting some heat from the community because he nailed his sleep strategy where he was able to go from hotel to hotel to hotel. And he booked it on the road, right? You know, the rule is you can't pre-book your hotel. Like that's how it works.
Yeah.
And he was able to do that. And so he slept well, 4 or 5 hours a night. And he credits the fact that he just got good sleep. He wasn't sleeping in a ditch. He wasn't sleeping in a tent.
Yeah. And it's a thing. There's always that conversation with new teammates or old teammates like, hey, how much sleep are we going to get? And it sounds like if you got 9 over, it looks like that's almost bare bones as well. So
it wasn't supposed to be 9.
Okay.
It was supposed to be, it was the deal that we made that it was going to be 3 hours a night. Right. So if you think about it, you're looking really kind of at 12, right? You have this Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. So you possibly 15 hours of sleep. But like that first night, there was no sleep to be had. I mean, you were not going to lay down on the side of a mountain, right? And so to that point, so we had to sneak 30 minutes in the gazebo in the town, right? That's stuff like that. But it was supposed to be 15, it ended up being 9. And we felt that at the end, like there was one long day at the end just to get ourselves finished. So I think to your point, the adventure racing movement towards more sleep is filtering out into other sports as well.
Yeah. Our sport isn't as high profile, isn't as almost researched or analyzed, but absolutely. It's so adjacent. Those crazy bikepacking races, 10, 15 days, so adjacent to expedition racing that I think there's a lot to be gained from what are those dudes doing? Like, how are they optimized?
Yeah. I have a race now that's chirping at me. It's called the Bright Midnight. It's in Norway. It's going on right now. It started July 5th, 1,100 kilometers. You have to bring lights with you because there's tunnels, but there's no darkness.
Okay.
And that's in the back of my head for next year. Like, 60% paved or 40% gravel.
Nice.
So that might be, the Bright Midnight might be on the schedule for next year. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. That sounds like a good one. I've not heard of that one. It sounds cool.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff. And so your Tour de Bike, when did you do the Tour de Bike?
That was 2020. Gosh, I am the worst at this. 2024. Let's say that.
Okay.
Could have been 2023. I'm terrible at dates. Yeah.
How did you approach it? Like, did you go on full race mode? Did you go on adventure mode? Did you go on a mixture of the two? Like, how did you manage? It's how many miles is the whole thing? It's, is it 2,400? Is it 3,000?
Yeah. 2,400.
2,400 miles, right? It's Banff, it's Canada, New Mexico. It's the entire spine of the country.
Yeah. So I had a lot of input beta from Sarah, who's done it several times, Sarah Dalton, of what I probably could bite off. Trained with her a lot, and it was an interesting conversation because I know you've rode several centuries, but for me, when I rode a century, I was like, I'm tuckered.
Yeah.
So I was like, Sarah, like, how am I supposed to piece this thing together for X number of days? And she just told me, she was like, you'll be fine. It'll just happen and you'll be fine. So I was like, all right.
Yeah, your body will adjust. Yeah.
Yeah, your body will adjust. So, I went in pretty trained for it. But then I found like the whole front half, I was doing pretty consistent 100-mile days. So I wasn't racing it, but I was also not on the typical rec pace either. I was somewhere in the in-between. A lot of the recreationalists that I would pass and talk to, they were on like 50 to 60-mile days.
Okay.
So I was way behind the racers, but also wasn't making any friends on the rec side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was doing 100-mile days until about the first half of it. And it was fine, highly manageable. And then I realized I wanted to slow down, not for physicality. I just wanted to experience it more.
Right.
So that's what I did. Yeah, it's an adventure. Back half, I slowed down some. I think I took 1 0 day, maybe a half of a 0 day. And then at the end, though, it was Silver City. I was like, gosh, I don't want this to end. Like, this is going to suck.
That's a really common, that's a common psychological dynamic is like, you now live out there, right? And it's like, wait, I got this because it's eat, sleep, ride. It's not a bad way to live your life.
Oh, it was great. Like so peaceful. Mind was clear, all the stuff. And so I was like, in Silver City, like I took a day there, like ate 3 or 4 or 5 times, got a tattoo, like all the stuff. And then in my ride to Antelope Wells, like it was a serious thought, but probably not a practical thought. I was like, I'm going to flip this thing.
Maybe I'll just turn around and start heading north, do a Novo.
Exactly. And, you know, it was in the back of my mind, and I was like, boy, that sure.
You touch the gates at Antelope Wells, you just flip right around, start going north.
Yeah. And the finish too is absolutely phenomenal in the fact that it is not a finish, right? It's like a crazy AR finish, actually less than. Yeah. My shuttle driver was there. I won. Right. And he was like clapping for me.
Yeah. He was like a kazoo. Right.
I was like, this is great. High five, Juan.
Yeah.
Touch the gate, get your picture. So yeah, if that one's on anybody's bucket list, go for it. Go for it now. Do the thing.
Yeah, that's chirping.
If you can.
Yeah, that's chirping. You know, it's funny, the idea of having these glorious finishes. Jim Murn and Dan Brennan and I did the Prezi Traverse, God, how many years ago now? And the Prezi Presidential Range up in New Hampshire, big mountain, big, huge one-day hiking. We're out there all day, and you're nuked at the end of it. You climb Mount Washington. It's a wild day, and the last few miles, that's the last hour or so, you're basically in this wooded path. Right, you're kind of walking downhill the entire time, but you're closed in by the woods. Time of year we did it, all the leaves are up, and this, the end of this massive, huge Prezi Traverses, you step out of the woods onto the side of the highway.
Yep,
and that's over. The car's over there. Kate's in the car with the blinkers on. You walk over. Kate Matthews is driving. Boop, 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 boop. You just go, you get in the car and you get a pizza and you drink a Pepsi the size of your head. You know, that's just the glamour sport that we have here, Shawn, right? This glamour as it gets.
I love it that's what that's what we're in it for.
Right.
Like, don't necessarily need that finisher medal. I just need to finish this thing. Right. One of my best memories is I did a 24-hour with Dallas, my brother, and we weren't as experienced as a lot. I mean, we were absolutely walloped. Just like, oh my gosh, we had just done probably the hardest thing we've ever done. Sure enough, we get to the finish. We were like at the tail end of things. The arch was still up, but there was like maybe the race director, and that's all. It was the race director. The food had been wiped out. It was a crock pot full of ramen and some meatballs. And I'm like,
and you're lucky you get that. And you're lucky.
Yeah. Like, well, I guess this is what this sport is. I think this is for us. So.
I remember a story that was told one time on the show ages ago and I don't want to call out the race director or the race, but it was a world championship. And the team finishes and there's no one there. And
like they
they told the story, but the team told the story. They finished it. It was, okay, I guess we're done. And there was one volunteer, gave them their passport, and the racers had to get a cab. That's just, it's just over. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. We're going to go to bed now.
Well, I'm glad it's ubiquitous to the sport. Just do the thing.
It's great.
You don't need the fanfare.
And it's funny too, don't get me wrong. I think the finisher medals are a nice touch. I think the t-shirts are a nice touch. Those are great, right? But I think when you've done this long enough, it's like the real gift is the course. The real gift is the work the race director puts in. That's the real prize, is having this. How fortunate are we that we have this entire community around us that puts in the time and the effort, and yourself included, right? And because you live in a couple of different dimensions, that you'll go through everything to give people these experiences, right? And then it kind of culminates in these wonderful, memories that people have. They look back on. It's a great thing to have. It's a great community to be a part of. As we wrap up here, is there anything that I didn't bring up, mention, talk about that you wanted to leave? A race, other races you have going on, other events that you want to talk out loud about? And for the listener, by the way, Shawn's going to send me a whole bunch of links. Everything will be in the show notes, so check them out. Anything else you want to talk about that I forgot to ask?
I think you covered a lot of it. I think if I had to summarize like this episode in general, it's hard to do, but find your people. It takes some swipes at it. But when you hit it, I think you hit it. And the other thing is maybe those people are not where you think they're going to be. For me, it was a lot of different lanes until I hit them, whether it's ultra runners or bike packers. A lot of sports are so adjacent to what we do as adventure racers that I would really encourage dabble, see what hits for you, see what, resonates with you. So yeah, I think that's my thing. Search for your people, find them, embrace them, know who you are, and then run with it from there. I think that's my takeaway from this episode.
Well, there you have it, folks. Dark Zone number 168. Thank you to Shawn Lemaster for coming on to the show. Always a good talk, always a great guest. So delighted to have him on. Thanks for sticking with the show for this long. Hope you're having a great season. Your training is going well, and you're getting out there and you're racing. And remember, if you keep racing, we'll keep talking.